Okay, it is 19 October, Sunday. I'm Charlie Garrett, and this is the CG Prophecy Report. No need for the GPS. It's right over there. That and a lot of other things to go over on today's report. Okay, let's see here. As usual, the big news is everything going on in Gaza. And you know me, I don't report on the big news. It's been on all the news all week for 10 days now. And Trump did a great thing. But I see no need in repeating what every other person on the planet has been talking about or will be talking about this morning in their own prophecy updates. So if you want to hear that for the 8 billionth time, turn on somebody else. But I just don't get into that. But I will say, the one thing I will say about the peace between, and it's not really peace because Israel had to go in and blow some of them up today because Hamas violated the peace deal. But there are two things that I will say. One is that Hamas, as you know, has been out rounding up their enemies within Gaza, and they've been executing them publicly. Okay, a bullet in the back of the head. And I have yet to see one person on the left protesting that. They've been protesting Israel consistently for the past, since October 7th, when they got attacked and everybody said, how dare those Jews get in the way of the bullets that were attacking them, right? So, and it's been that way now for 2 years. But I have yet to see one person on the left say that what Hamas has done is wrong. Okay. Second thing is that peace in the Middle East is temporary. Okay. That's all there is to it. It is not going to be an effective peace beyond just the immediate. And we'll get through this and then something else will happen. And until Jesus comes, there will be no peace. Okay, we know that. The Bible is very clear on what's going to happen, the numbers of people that are going to be killed, etc. So as exciting as it is to see a temporary peace, which it is exciting, it's just one step on the way to where we're going. I don't think it has, other than the fact itself is happening in the stream of time, I don't think it has any prophetic significance at all. The only real prophetic significance that this has is that it may bring more countries into the Abraham Accords. And that is where the Bible prophecy will be most heavily seen. What's happening with Gaza is happening with Gaza, and it's the same thing that's going to be happening with Gaza. So, there you go. We have a visitor from Andover in the UK. He showed up at the house, I think it was 2 days ago or 3 days ago, and my daughter was dropping off Isla, and she said, there's somebody out in the driveway wants to talk to you. And I walked outside, and there he is, handsome as ever. We got together the last time he was here. We had this is Gavin. He's Lintz, is that right? L-A? Okay. Is it T-Z, or how do you spell it?
Lind.
L-I-N-D. Okay. When people talk, you hear something and you never register it. And I did know that, but I kind of forgot it from 2 years ago. But Lind. Anyway, he was here last time with his wife, and she passed on since I've seen him last. And so he has my condolences, but it's also wonderful to see you. He's got family that lives right here in Sarasota, out at Lakewood Ranch, and you can tell he's a proud dad, the way he talks about his son and his son's wife. So there you go with that. And anyway, so it's wonderful to have you, and we welcome you, and we hope you'll have a wonderful vacation. If the weather stays the way it has, you're going to be in a sweet spot, okay? Because it gets really cold in Florida. It might get down into the 50s even, and we don't like that. But right now, you've got the perfect weather. All right, we got some news from Israel here. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Rabbi runs for Syrian parliament. Imagine that, ending a 58-year ban on Jewish candidates. Syrian-American Rabbi Henry Yosef Hamra has declared his candidacy for the People's Assembly in the Damascus district, a landmark move given that Jews have been barred from seeking political office in Syria since the 1967 war. So this, to me, is really something that's important. They are now allowing Jews to actually be themselves and to participate, or at least run for participation in the government. And most people don't know this, but there are Jews in the Iranian government as well. And so they are accepted in the world, but most of the Jews in Iran have pretty much rejected any thought or any notion of the state of Israel. They are Jews as Jews, but they, and there are even Jews in Israel. There are Jews in Israel that are anti-Zionist. There's entire groups of them. And so it seems contradictory, but they are. So anyway, the move is a step towards reintegrating a long marginalized religious and cultural group into Syrian public life. Hamra, 48, is the son of Yosef Hamra, the chief rabbi of the Syrian Jewish community in New York. His father left Damascus in 1992 after Syria lifted restrictions on Jewish travel, by which time fewer than 10 Jews remained in the capital. Hamra portrays himself as carrying forward the heritage of a once thriving Syrian Jewish community that has nearly disappeared from the country. His campaign, characterized by the slogan toward a prosperous, tolerant, and just Syria, is based on the three pillars of justice and citizenship, preserving Syrian heritage, and lifting sanctions. The second is the preservation of Syrian heritage, with a focus on safeguarding Islamic, Christian, and Jewish traditions as integral parts of the national identity, and strengthening ties between Syrian Jews at home and abroad through cultural and educational programs. The third is revitalizing the economy by working to lift the Caesar Act sanctions, promoting reconstruction through investment from Jewish business leaders worldwide, and creating funds to support small and medium-sized enterprises that would provide new opportunities for Syrian youth. So it's just, to me, is exciting that a Jew is actually going back to Syria after his father had left, and he's trying to make a difference. I don't know many groups of people in the world that would actually do that, but when you get a Jew that's determined to undo what's happened in the past, they'll do it. From the Times of Israel, facing drought, Israel to direct desalinated water to the Sea of Galilee in a world first. This can be really dicey because you take desalinized water and you put it into a fresh body of water, and you can actually harm the environment that the fish and other things live in. So they have to be very careful, but they are going to do it. With severe drought continuing to grip much of the Middle East and North Africa, Israel is also planning for another dry winter in a world first, channeling desalinated water into the northern Sea of Galilee, whose surface has dropped below the minimum level at which pumping is recommended. The so-called lower red line is at 699 feet below sea level. Pumping beyond this risks damaging the ecosystem. Firhas Talhami, who is in charge of the rehabilitation of water sources in northern Israel, told the Times of Israel that pumping of small amounts of desalinated water into the lake is planned to start in November, in the first such operation of its kind in the world. So we'll see if it has any effect. It will hopefully not, and they'll be able to continue doing this because the Sea of Galilee is a huge source of water for parts of Israel, not all of Israel, but for parts of it. So it's an important step they may need to take, unless they get a sudden big rainstorm here in the next couple days, which I don't think will happen. Breitbart, Israeli town to name new soccer stadium after Trump. Eli Dukorsky, the mayor of Kiryat Bialik near Haifa, announces plans to name the city's new soccer field after President Trump in recognition of his significant contribution to the release of our hostages. Great stuff. He already has an entire town named after him from several years ago in his first presidency, and now he's got a soccer stadium too. And a pizza place, if you remember that. There's the Pizza Trump over there, or Trump Pizza, I guess. That's my dyslexia, reading my mind backwards. From All Israel. Since Hamas' October 7th massacre, 1,152 Israeli soldiers and security forces fell in the line of duty, Defense Ministry says. So they've paid a big toll, not just in what happened to them in the attack, but since then. And that's fallen soldiers. I do not think that that includes innumerable wounded soldiers that are missing arms and legs and on and on and on. So for such a small country, they've paid a very high toll. From Israel Hayom, scary poll in the United States. 55% of Jews experienced anti-Semitism. Nearly 1 in 5 experienced assaults, threats, or verbal harassment due to their Jewish identity, while more than a third witnessed actual anti-Semitic violence or threats of violence. So, I remember being in high school here, and there were several Jews. I mean, Phil Nahon and Dave Hart, and, I could go down the list of probably 10 that were friends of mine or within my circle. And that would be the last thing on my mind was anti-Semitism. They were just guys that I went to school with. Dave and I went surfing all the time together. I just don't know how people have changed so much in this nation. But at the same time, and I brought this up before, is it used to be that all the rednecks, which you can't even say the word anymore, but all the rednecks, they lived on Fruitville and Bee Ridge out towards where I-75 is now, and Fruitville, which was absolute pasture land. It was people farmed for a living, and they shot their own food. And this was just how long ago, and now it's the biggest part of town. But those rednecks that lived out there, every one of them had a pickup truck. Yes, they had a gun to go with the pickup truck. Okay, actually, it was status. They had the gun rack in the back, then they had the status. Did you have one gun? Did you have two, or did you have three? Remember that, Dave?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you? Yeah. Yes, you did.
I was a redneck.
Okay. Do you remember one truck out there that was locked with those guns in it?
No.
Never.
No.
Never.
And when there's disagreement, they didn't shoot people.
They didn't shoot people. They left their guns in their trucks, and if you ever touched a redneck truck, they would beat you. You'd never want to do it again. They were very protective, but they didn't bother locking their guns. And if they wanted to bring their guns in and show each other in school, nobody said anything. So things have changed.
Right.
Absolutely. That's right. Things have changed, and we have 55% of Jews in America are now feeling the heat.
And they still vote for Democrats.
And a lot of them still vote for Democrats, yes. One of them, he's now dead. He was killed by somebody a couple years ago, but he was a very conservative Jew in school. Very, very conservative. I mean, he was a great guy. Phil was a wonderful person. Anyway, got some news from Christianity here. CAIR defends. Now, you got to choose your battles in life. I think this is not a battle anyone should choose, but this is CAIR we're dealing with, okay? The Council on Islamic Relations, American Islamic Relations. CAIR defends Muslims who graffitied a Texas church and claims it was protected speech. Yeah, you talk about a losing agenda here. CAIR has argued that prosecutors dropped charges against 3 Muslims accused of vandalizing a church. Yeah, we're just going to do it because what? They're Muslims? Arguing the act was political expression protected by the First Amendment.
Yeah.
Wow.
In 2024, 3 individuals were charged in connection with graffiti painted on the wall of a non-denominational church in Euless, Texas. The act of vandalism was carried out after the church raised an Israeli flag, following Hamas's October 7th terrorist attack. The phrase blank, 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 you can imagine Israel, was painted on the walls of the church along with pro-Palestinian stickers right after they were attacked. Like I said, if you're a Jew and you get in front of a bullet, it's your fault for stopping the bullet, right? This is how the world thinks. It was painted on the walls, all of which were captured on the church's security cameras. So let's not just do things, let's do them unintelligently and then expect the world to allow us to do it. 3 suspects were initially charged with felony criminal mischief, but the charges were later increased to a 3rd-degree felony hate crime because they targeted a church. Alam was tried in September and convicted of criminal mischief, but acquitted of the hate crime charge. He was sentenced to 5 years of probation, ordered to pay a $10,000 fine, and required to pay $1,700 in restitution to the church. Judge Biran Bolton added 180 days of incarceration to Alam's sentence, calling the graffiti disgusting. Venzer agreed to testify against Alam and Khan in exchange for a plea deal that included 5 years of probation. Khan's trial is expected in the fall. Ahead of the trials, CAIR, Texas urged Tarrant County prosecutors to drop the hate crime enhancements, calling them an overreach of the law. If a Jew goes downtown and he sneezes, that is a hate crime, okay? If these people do this, they say it's not a hate crime. This is the world we live in. Christian Times, Bible translation accelerates. This is where my heart is right here. Getting the Bible to every person on this planet. It accelerates as millions receive Scripture in their own language. The global movement to make the Bible available in every language is gaining remarkable momentum, with new figures showing historic progress in translation efforts, released on UN's International Translation Day. The latest statistics from Wycliffe Bible translators highlight how one of the greatest barriers to Christian mission, the absence of Scripture in people's native languages, is rapidly becoming overcome. In the past year alone, 118 new Bible and New Testament translations have been released. 118 in a year. An average of one every 3 days. Of these, 23 were full Bibles. 95 were New Testaments, marking the highest annual total to date. The advances are bringing the day nearer when every community can access God's Word in their own language. Just 12 months earlier, 985 languages were identified as suitable for translation, though no portion of the Bible had been started in them. That number has now fallen dramatically by 44% to 550. In 2021, the figure stood at 1,892. Okay, so we have 550 languages that need the Bible still in their native language, and you say, why don't they just learn English, right? Okay, I'm going to tell you why. I was at Wycliffe years ago, and while I was there, one of the doctors came, and he was a missionary doctor overseas, and he assisted in Bible translations. And he had a girl that worked in, I don't remember the country, it was like Papua New Guinea or somewhere. Okay, she was translating the Bible for him. He's got the information. She is now taking it and putting the nuances in it in her own language. So she's fluent in English to do this. She spoke fluent English. She's translating it with all of the ruffles and flourishes that a indigenous person would understand. He speaks that language, but he doesn't understand the nuances. So she translated it for her native people. She finished the translation and she says, I wonder how this came out. It's the book of Romans. She read the book of Romans, and for the first time in her life, she understood justification by grace through faith. She had read it many, many times. She actually did the translation, and until she turned around and read it, she didn't realize what she had done. That's why it's important. It's called the heart language. So if you have a heart for people getting the Bible, I would hope that you would support people that translate the Bible. Okay? Christian Post. Open morgue. Christian groups call for safe passage of civilians trapped in Sudan's North Darfur. A real surprising joy in my heart is that guy, Bill Maher. He has come out again and again and again in the past couple months and said Christians are being persecuted in Africa. They're being slaughtered, and nobody is saying a thing. He's actually a total lefty, but he's highlighting the hypocrisy of the left against Israel when there are 10 times as bad atrocities that are validated, people actually being butchered, cut into pieces for their faith in Christ. And he says it's a totally hypocritical stand that these people have. At least 260,000 civilians remain trapped in Sudan's El Fasher city, the last government stronghold in Darfur, amid reports of indiscriminate shelling, mass killings, and the occupation of churches by fighters. Christian groups are calling for the immediate creation of evacuation corridors and safe passage for those surrounded by the rapid support forces. And the world says nothing. Except a Jew that's on the left that is calling out their own hypocrisy. Even the right doesn't bring this up. They just don't mention that these people are being killed by the tens of thousands. Christian Post. ISIS in Mozambique documents beheading, shooting Christians, burning churches, over 30 beheaded. Not a word in any regular news service, none. Western Journal. Previously attacked by Muslims, wheelchair-bound preacher is stabbed in the neck, murdered in France.
That's common.
Yeah, I know it is. It's just highlighting it. Some news from the Mideast and Africa today. From Reuters, U.S. imposes sanctions on China refinery, others for Iran oil purchases. Okay, It's getting heated out there. There are changes coming in the past week over the Russian and oil industries. Putin actually wants to meet Trump, and I have a feeling it's because of the pressure he is putting on them in regard to this. Iran has made its own bed, and they're going to have to live with it, but Russia does have an out, and we'll see if he takes it. The Treasury Department sanctioned the Shandong Xinjiang Petrochemical Group, which it said is an independent teapot refinery in Shandong province that has purchased millions of barrels of Iranian oil since 2023. So they make teapots. And they needed millions of barrels of oil to burn to make teapots, apparently.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. It has also sanctioned China-based Rizhao Shihuihua China Oil Terminal, which operates a terminal at Lanshan Port. Treasury said it had accepted more than a dozen of Iran's so-called shadow fleet vessels that evade sanctions. The U.S. believes Iran's oil networks help Tehran fund its nuclear and missile programs and support militant proxies throughout the Middle East. Iran says its nuclear program is for peaceful purposes. Treasury said it was the fourth round of sanctions in which the admin targeted China-based refineries that continue to purchase Iranian oil. The Treasury Department is degrading Iran's cash flow by dismantling key elements of Iran's energy export machine. Now, before we go on, I have to interject something because this is a prophecy update, and, little prophecy items come up all the time. About 3 weeks ago, Shannon said the thing that's covering the back door is old, it's ragged, it had been hanging there since October 13th of, 2013. Yeah, so it's been out there for 12 years, and it's just falling to pieces. She said, I'd like to make a new one. And so what did she do? She went out and she made a new one. And she happened to choose that material over there. Okay, got Jesus all over it. It's more suitable than an Indonesian batik, right? And so, kind of churchy. I got in the mail this week from Arkansas a bandana with the exact same material. Now, there must be something prophetic about that. I don't know what it is, but that is unbelievable. So there you go. Very nice of them. They always send me neat little things, and I just wanted to thank them for sending that. Very, very wonderful. From the Times of Israel, Shin Bet says it seized advanced Iranian arms destined for West Bank terrorists. So once again, what are they doing with the money that they have in Iran? They're still sending out stuff, weapons, and all kinds of stuff to their proxies. The recently seized shipments, similar to shipments busted in March and November of 2024, included 29 Claymore-type explosive devices, 4 drones, including 2 explosive-laden drones, 15 anti-tank rockets, along with an RPG launcher and 3 RPGs, 20 hand grenades, 53 handguns, 7 assault rifles, 9 machine guns, and 750 bullets. According to the Shin Bet, 2 units of the IRGC's Special Forces were responsible for the plot, as well as the previous attempts in 2024. So, what are you going to do with your money if you have it? And if you're making it, are you making it legally or illegally? Well, pretty much at this point, Iran is so shut off, everything is illegal. And instead of saying, we better save our money for our people, they're doing this. Zero Hedge. Madrid hospitals overwhelmed by illegals as Spaniards endure longer healthcare waits. We saw this with housing last week in Denmark, and now we're seeing it with healthcare in Spain. Figures released by Madrid's Ministry of Health show that Spanish capital alone has registered a 44% jump in patients without residency papers just in the last year. While the Canary Islands have agreed to take in sick and wounded minors from Gaza at the request of the central government, despite its own residents having to wait an average of 122 days for surgery appointments, according to published data by El Confidencial, the Madrid Health Services, entitled SERMAS, provided medical care to 190,000 people in an irregular situation over the past year, compared with 134,000 in the year before. The figure represents an increase of 60,000 patients in just 12 months, as the region's total population grew by about 500,000. once again, these nations are committing national suicide by doing what they're doing. We stopped that flow, and we are reversing it right now. But we would have had exactly the same thing, and that's what they want. They want chaos in these nations. But there you go. From the Gateway Pundit, global organizations ignore over 1 million dead and displaced in Ethiopia's Tigray region. Million people just dead, right? Gateway Pundit. Italian Prime Minister Meloni sends bill to Parliament banning burqas and niqabs in public spaces. Expect some explosions over there before that passes. And once it passes, expect a couple more. Mongolia, CNBC. Mongolia to join data center frenzy with Genghis Khan's sovereign wealth fund. Mongolia plans to build data centers powered by renewable energy as it prepares its first sovereign wealth fund. The Genghis Khan Sovereign Wealth Fund has $1.4 billion U.S. in assets and is aimed at channeling its mineral wealth to social welfare and infrastructure. If it was $1.4 billion in Mongolian money, it would be worth about $3.07. So they have a very high exchange rate. But the sovereign fund also seeks to build more mega-scaled renewable energy power grids and projects to boost green energy exports. Once again, that will fail. They've consistently failed in the United States again and again and again. And they say, well, we can improve it, make it work better next time. It never does. They keep failing. What happens in Texas? I don't know if you remember, they had 30,000 acres or something, or of those, the things that catch the sun. What do you call them? Solar. Thank you, solar. And they were all destroyed in a hailstorm. Let's put it right out in the middle of Hailstorm City. And so they have an entire, waste place full of these things that nobody can use because they're all broken. People don't think things through in life. The one out in Obama, remember he put that solar thing out, and I think it was the Nevada desert, and it was supposed to be the premier thing in the world, and guess what? It's closing down because it doesn't work. Yeah. Daniel 12 Technology, SciTech Daily. From sci-fi to reality, new breakthrough could bring holograms to your phone. Now, this is cool, and so I included it, but at the same time, can you imagine how long that fad is going to last? It's like images on Apple Messages. You send an image and everybody, oh, I got images, and they send them all out, and after the first week, all you do is one a day to your friend just to let them know whatever's on your mind at the time. But I can see getting a hologram and saying, that is so cool. I got to buy that phone. And you buy the phone, use it 2 times, and you never use it again. Anyway, here we go. Research from the University of St. Andrews is advancing holographic tech with potential applications in smart devices, communication, gaming, and entertainment. The creation of a new optoelectronic device that combines holographic metasurfaces with organic light-emitting diodes. Until now, holograms have typically been generated using lasers. The St. Andrews team, however, demonstrated that pairing OLEDs with HMs provides a more compact and straightforward method. This approach is not only easier to implement, but it is also less expensive, addressing one of the key challenges that has limited wider use of holographic technology. OLEDs are thin film devices already common in mobile phone displays and some TVs, where they create colored pixels because they are flat and emit light across their surface. OLEDs are also promising for emerging fields such as optical wireless communication, biophotonics, and sensing. Their versatility and ability to integrate with other components makes them well suited for developed miniaturized light-based systems. A holographic metasurface, HM, is a thin, flat layer composed of nanoscale structures known as metaatoms, each about 1,000th the width of a human hair. These structures are engineered to manipulate the behavior of light in precise ways. They can generate holograms and have potential uses in data storage, anti-counterfeiting technology, optical displays, high-resolution microscopy, and sensing. When each meta-atom is carefully shaped to control the properties of the beam of light that goes through it, it behaves as a pixel of the HM. When light goes through the HM at each pixel, the properties of the light are slightly modified. Thanks to these modifications, it is possible to create a pre-designed image on the other side, exploiting the principle of light interference, whereby light waves create complicated patterns when they interact with each other. Holographic metasurfaces are one of the most versatile material platforms to control light. With this work, we have removed one of the technological barriers that prevent the adoption of metamaterials in everyday applications. This breakthrough will enable a step change in the architecture of holographic displays for emerging applications. For example, in virtual and augmented reality. The one that would be the most useful I could see is if you are in the tech or science field and you need to send somebody something that shows them how the mechanics of something work. And so that holograph comes up and you see the intricate workings and you say, I get that, okay? Or you need to see how a building is designed in relation to something else. And so they send a hologram. I could see those type of applications. But all of the Star Wars type of stuff, that would be interesting for about 3 seconds. And then it'll be over. Anyway, it's a dangerous world, including the inevitable plagues noted in the book of Revelation. From the Jerusalem Post, I think when we were done in America this year, it was 450 cases of measles. And the whole world was going crazy. America, they stopped vaccinating and there are going to be people dead in the streets and we had 450 cases, which is about normal or even a little less than normal. Okay. And they were all illegals that came into America, like 92% of them or something. Okay. Jerusalem Post. Now, I know that this is going to be hard to grasp, but America is bigger than Israel. Okay, it's bigger. This is Israel and this is America, okay? And America is bigger. Everybody got that. Over 1,700 cases of measles diagnosed in Israel. Bigger, smaller. 400, 1,700. I think there's a disparity. Anyway, just the news. Federally funded researchers bury results on COVID vaccine effect on liver, kidney risks in youth. Yeah. A research consortium buried a startling finding in its peer-reviewed study on biologically elusive long COVID and reinfection in patients under 21, published in a prestigious UK journal. UK. Vaccinated kids who are reinfected have a higher risk of several long-term problems than unvaccinated kids, though it's the opposite for some other conditions. So some conditions it didn't show, but in this, they hid it. They didn't even tell him. Morality, Newsmax. Patel fires agent trainee who displayed pride flag. It's his prerogative. This document provides official notice that you are being summarily dismissed from your position as new agent trainee at the FBI Academy in Quantico and removed from the federal service under my authority as the FBI director, effective immediately. After reviewing the facts and circumstances and considering your probationary status, I have determined you exercised poor judgment with an inappropriate display of political signage in your work area during your previous assignment at the LA field office. Pursuant to Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution and the laws of the United States, your employment with the Federal Bureau of Investigation is hereby terminated. From Fox, California volleyball team with trans player stays undefeated in league play. In the first place after forfeits. So everybody forfeits because they don't want to play this guy, and so they keep winning. 2 teammates step away from the team in protest while school district faces legal challenges. So even the teammates, they don't want to be a part of this because they want to go out and play like children want to do. And they can't because this guy keeps showing up that wants to be a girl and nobody wants to play against him. LifeSite. Canada is turning its assisted suicide regimen into, and I said this was coming like 8 years ago, an organ donation supply chain. Get them out the door and then cut them open and take everything and send it to people that spend a lot of money. That is what it's been the goal all along. Okay, Breitbart, Superman director James Gunn's Peacemaker. Plot depicts a racist America with Jesus-loving Nazis. Yeah. Gateway pundit, transgender school bus driver Miss Sharon, that can't be, arrested for sexually abusing young boys.
Oh, surely not.
That happens all the time.
Happens all the time. Miami Herald, Florida officials gut rainbow crosswalk in South Beach amid statewide crackdown. The post-millennial. Suicide rates skyrocket more than 16% among Gen Z Americans from 2014 to 2024. Well, when you got no hope and they keep telling you that you can be a girl when you're a guy and vice versa, that's what happens. The post-millennial. Canadian school accused of gender transitioning an 8-year-old without father's consent. Local leader calls it misinformation. Listen, it happened to one of my friends in Canada. The post-millennial. Philadelphia Children's Hospital cheated insurance codes to give trans kids puberty blockers. Other news today. Zero Hedge. Go to buy tariffs. European pharmaceutical industry pivots to the United States. They've been overcharging us for medicine in America for years and years and years. We can buy it from Canada for $1 and it costs us down here $85 or $90, right? I mean, we know that. It's been going on for years. And Trump says, we're tired of this. All we want is a level playing field. We don't want any more than that. And so now he says, we're going to put these tariffs on you so that the field is level. That's all he's asked for from the beginning. And instead they say, we'll do better. We're going to come over and build it over here. Since early 2025, European drug makers have stepped up their U.S. presence. In the most recent move, the UK's giant AstraZeneca announced a direct listing on the New York Stock Exchange, just months after pledging $50 billion of U.S. investment by 2030. The UK headquartered Indivior dropped its London listing in July to trade solely on the NASDAQ, while Swiss giants Roche, and Novartis unveiled U.S. expansion plans in April worth $23 billion and $50 billion, respectively. France's Sanofi has likewise committed at least $20 billion in American projects through 2030. The moves reflect, that's already up at $200 billion, and this is just the pharmaceutical industry. When Trump said in the first couple weeks after coming in office, we are already at trillions of dollars, and people don't like the guy. He's just making things level. This has been going out from this country all these years, and all he wants is it level, and he's doing it. This accounted for more than half of global prescription medicine sales in 2024. American market, more than half in the whole world. And push of political signals from Washington. On September 25th, President Trump, after months of warning about pharmaceutical tariffs, announced a 100% levy on imports of branded and patented medicines from October 1st, unless manufacturers build plants in the United States. The U.S., as the world's largest economy and the biggest pharmaceutical market, was not a place where any chief executive wanted to risk being put at a competitive disadvantage. According to data from the European Federation of Pharmaceutical Industries and Associations, North America represented 54.8% of global prescription sales in 2024, compared with 22.7% for Europe. We're double Europe, okay? The EU exported nearly $127 billion worth of medicines to the U.S. in 2024, making America its largest pharmaceutical trading partner. The UK alone shipped $8.5 billion in pharmaceutical products across the Atlantic in the year to March 2025. Industry analysts say the U.S. tariff policy, combined with Trump's push for lower U.S. drug prices, are accelerating strategic shifts. Good. WhiteHouse.gov. Fact sheet. President Donald J. Trump approves Ambler Road project. Anybody? Ambler Road project to unlock Alaska's mineral potential. This is what, if you've ever heard Talking Heads, the song Road to Nowhere, it's about us getting older, and as we go, we get married and have children, the whole thing. Anyway, this was like the idea of the road to nowhere, because that is Nowheresville. I was up in Alaska. I don't know how many people have ever been to Alaska, but I mined gold for a summer on the 40-mile river, okay? The closest town to us was a place called Chicken, Alaska. That was the closest town. Chicken, Alaska had 9 residents, year-round residents. It did bloom to like 100 in the summer, but during the whole year, 9 people lived in Chicken. They call it Chicken because nobody could spell ptarmigan, which is the local bird. Okay, so they called it Chicken, Alaska. That is a 4-hour drive from where I was, and then a 17-mile ride down a river to get to where we mine gold. There was nobody for thousands of square miles. This is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with absolute nowheresville on the planet. And the left has had a field day of not allowing us to go in and do anything in Alaska. You can't cut down a tree, you can't shoot a bear, nothing. It's been going on for years. And Trump says this is national security. We're going to do it, and they have to do it now. He's a very smart man. He's got the right perspective on things. They're not going to ruin the environment. They're going to actually help the environment in many ways. Plus, they're going to help America. Having said that, I found in 3 months on the 40-mile river 2 pounds of gold. Yeah, 3 months of work. And then, of course, the claim owner got 1 pound of gold. So I came back with 1 pound of gold and a bunch of nice gold necklaces my wife never wore and my daughter never wore, but that's all right. They were actually, quartz with gold in them. They were beautiful, and I had them made into necklaces. These big gold things. They're very valuable. Never saw her wear it one time. She probably sold it and bought Bazooka Joe bubblegum. Is that where that came from? Okay, anyway, we'll get on with this. The Amber Road project is a proposed 211-mile industrial road from the Dalton Highway to Alaska's remote Ambler mining district that would enable access to large deposits of, here it is, copper, cobalt, gallium, germanium, and more. The permits for the road have been held for years due to protracted litigation, and the president has finally allowed this project to go forward to support the admin's energy dominance agenda. The decision finds that the road is in the public interest given our need for access to domestic critical minerals, and there is no economically feasible and prudent alternative route. In other words, we got to do this. This is national security, and the left can say nothing because he's done that. The decision directs the BLM, MPS, and U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to reissue necessary permits to construct the road. In addition, the U.S. government is announcing a partnership with Trilogy Metals, investing $35.6 million to support mining exploration in Alaska's Ambler mining district. This investment makes the U.S. government a 10% shareholder in Trilogy Metals and includes warrants to purchase an additional 7.5% of the company. I've seen 2 articles in the past week that him buying a stake in this and buying a stake in, I think it was crypto, might be something else, might be AI, whatever it was. 2 different things. People are saying that is equivalent to Russia and state ownership of business. That is the biggest nonsense on the planet. If you read an article like that, just don't bother. Just read the title and go on to something else. This is showing that we have an interest and you will not lose your shirt because U.S. government is involved in it. That's what that is. If they were to buy a controlling stake, then we could say this is like Russia. This is a completely different dynamic. Donald Trump is ensuring that this becomes a success by doing that, not the opposite. So people need to think that through. It's not even close to a controlling stake. It's just to ensure that they understand they are not alone in this brand new venture. President Trump's decision overturns the Biden admin's 2024 rejection of the Ambler Road, which ignored Alaska's economic needs and national security imperatives. The Ambler Road project is vitally important to America's national defense and economic prosperity. Construction of the road will directly support 2,730 jobs, driving income, spending, and economic growth in rural Alaska. Alaska is projected to receive more than $1.1 billion in revenue from mining license tax revenues, corporate income taxes, production royalties, and claim rents associated with this project. President Trump continues to prioritize economic growth and national security, delivering where Democrats have failed to harness America's resources. I love every single fact sheet that he sends out and every executive order. He doesn't hide anything. He completely belittles the left for their conduct of running this nation in the past, right in the permanent fact sheet of the United States of America. He's a great man. AMAC, spectrum sale enhances economy and national security. A great but unheralded feature of the One Big Beautiful Bill was an authorization for the FCC to raise $88 to $100 billion through electronic spectrum auctions. Selling this additional 600 to 800 megahertz of bandwidth to the private sector will enable the U.S. to expand 5G and 6G technology, ensuring American dominance in internet, AI, and satellite technologies. Every penny of the revenues from these spectrum sales will be allocated to reducing the federal deficit and debt. Okay, what he's doing, if you don't understand it, we have AM radio, and you sell the airwaves. You can buy this part of the airwave and you can have a show, right? You have FM. And remember when we were young, all of a sudden FM came in and Steely Dan did an album called FM, right? And everybody wanted to listen to FM because it's clearer. They sold that. And then what comes? Satellite. And so we have Sirius XM and all they sell these to people that want to use them for their benefit. Okay? This spectrum is a very high frequency modulation, I guess it is, or high frequency, whatever you call it. And it's something that we have control of in the government, but nobody else has access to it. And so we can't develop the technology because it's all secured by the government. We'll go on now. Every penny goes to the debt reduction. Some of the opposition to the spectrum auction comes from the cable industry, of course, because cable is a plug that you put into the thing and it backs up its signal all the way back to the cable company who gets it through something like this. And so they have this limiting factor of how much they can give you. And if somebody can provide you 10 billion times as much as they're providing you, then they're going to be out of business. Well, of course they should be. We got rid of dial-up technology years ago because it's not effective, right? All of the things that we do as a way to increase ability for people to do stuff. And if cable industry can't keep up, they need to either adapt or overcome. How is it Clint Eastwood? You need to adapt, overcome. Okay, anyway, that's what they need to do. Or they need to go out of business. Okay, so cable industry, which worries that wireless will replace cable hookups. So what? This is true, but that's because wireless is a superior 21st century technology. Phone companies weren't too happy when cell phones took over the market. We didn't stop Apple's quest to put a wireless phone in every customer's palm. AT&T believes the spectrum auction plus the immediate expensing for capital purchases in the Trump tax bill will increase wireless and fiber services to an additional 1 million fiber customer locations annually starting in 2026 to meet soaring consumer demand. But now our congressional sources are warning of a potential holdup. The Democrats, of course, have opposed the measure. Most notably, Senator Maria Cantwell has encouraged Defense Secretary Hegseth and Transportation Secretary Duffy to go slow on auctions to protect critical spectrum resources used for national defense and aviation safety. Meanwhile, China is intent on winning the next tech race and has sold off substantially more of its spectrum to private interests than we have. Now, my guess is that Senator, Maria Cantwell, if you look her up, is probably getting something from over in China, and she's allowing them to get the technology that we aren't getting. I could be wrong on that. That's just Charlie Garrett speculating. But I bet you if you check deep enough, you'd find something there. The national security implications of China winning the race for 6G and other wireless communications technologies are a clear and present, that sounds like a movie, clear and present danger to our national and economic security. This bandwidth in the hands of private sector innovators can be much more valuable to our economy and security than if it remains in the hands of a few politicians and federal War Department bureaucracy. If we left it solely in the hands of the War Department, which used to be the Department of Defense, you know what would happen with it? Nothing. They'd be using the same technology 50 years from now that they're using right now. They would never develop. Private industry must do it. Okay? Zero Hedge. We don't need a GPS. It's right over there. Zero Hedge. Burger chain installs the tallest and biggest American flags at restaurants nationwide. Yes. Fast food chain Steak and Shake. Yes, has started installing large American flags at its outlets across the country. These are people that need to be bought from. Okay, I'll never go to Cracker Barrel again. Even if they completely go back to what they were, I will never go there again. They had their chance with Charlie Garrett, and it is over. Okay, these people need to be supported. They have stuck with the conservative message through all of the past 8 years of wokeness. They have stuck with it. The flag installations have begun at Steak and Shake. The company said every Steak and Shake is getting the tallest and biggest American flag that the local governments will allow. Whatever they allow, we're putting the biggest one up. I think it was Donald Trump. Now, I could be wrong in this, but some years ago, and I'm pretty sure it was Donald Trump, had a big flagpole. And the people of the community complained. The Democrats, they didn't like it, okay? And they said it doesn't meet the codes. And I'm sure it's Donald Trump. It's coming back to my mind right now. He went around the codes by building a giant mound, which took it out of the codes, and he put the flag on top of that. So now they have one that's even higher. Good job. I need to find that article because I'm sure I'm right on most of the details. Anyway, every Steak and Shake is getting the largest one allowed. Steak and Shake proudly supports American values and traditions. I'm ordering from there tomorrow, says billionaire Elon Musk in a reply to the Post. Steak and Shake, based in Indiana, employs more than 10,000 people, according to the numbers. As of August, there were 397 Steak and Shake restaurants across 24 states and territories in the United States of America. Right out by I-75, Cattleman, and Bee Ridge, right by the Home Depot, Steak and Shake. Go there today. Everybody just go. Mail online. George W. Bush's favorite chef. Anybody hear about his favorite chef? Deported after a 36-year secret came out. Oops. 36 years and he never bothered to get his citizenship. Goodbye. Breitbart. Trump's DHS releases 0 migrants into the United States of America for the 5th consecutive month. 180,000 a month, and we can't stop them. We can't do anything about it. We're down to 0 for 5 months. Newsmax. Ukraine's missiles, drones cause gas shortages in Russia. Next article. Russian drone and missile strikes knock out 60% of Ukraine gas production. Country's vulnerable ahead of the winter. So we blow you up, you blow... Why don't we just stop blowing each other up and produce? Whatever. Gateway Pundit. Amazon digitally erased... You know, I've always said, if you had a perfect world, they would take basketball teams, right? They'd play the last 30 seconds of the game and be done with it. Yeah. Gateway Pundit. Amazon digitally erases guns from iconic James Bond posters on Prime Video. Sparks massive backlash from fans. So you got James Bond standing there. He's got no gun in his hand.
Looks like this is...
Zero Hedge. U.S. reports biggest ever budget surplus for month of September thanks to record tariffs. Oh. And it would never happen. The economy won't last 2 months with Trump in office. Breitbart. Democrat-run Chicago. More than 1,500. That's more than all of the people in Israel killed so far during this war. 1,500 shooting victims thus far in 2025. And we got plenty of time to go, folks.
Yeah.
It's worse than war in Gaza, in Chicago. And those people are blocking him from going in and making it right. Who said it? Second to agriculture, humbug is the biggest industry of our age. Well, almost. Nobel. Yeah, Nobel. Okay, I got a Lesric, and I want to see if you can figure out what is being written about. Steak and Shake proudly flies U.S. flag. The biggest that helps them to brag. From Indy, they make a very good shake and a burger for your luncheon bag. Okay, got a couple of ironies and we'll be done. Is this ironic? Yeah, that's ironic. Mail online. Husband of HR executive caught in infamous Coldplay kiss cam. Remember that? He's up there and he got caught. Was at the same concert, but with his own date. So they're both cheating on each other at the same concert, and they just found this out. Mail online. Don Lemon sparks fury with wild rant calling white men broken despite being married to a white man.
Wow.
Such is the world in which we live. So from Sarasota, Florida to Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, I'm Charlie Garrett, and that is your CG Prophecy Report for the week.